Welcome to Alignment Adventures, a podcast where we explore what it means to live a fulfilling, aligning, and present life. I'm your host, Lindsay Tanner, and I'm so dang glad you're here. Hello, my loves, and welcome back to Alignment Adventures, and welcome to the 100th episode of Alignment Adventures. It is just so wild to say that still. I still remember going back to recording my first episode and feeling so scared and excited and unsure of how this would be received or who would listen or if anyone would even want to listen. And here we are, almost 2 years later, 100 episodes later, and I still think this is one of the most important topics that we can discuss. What makes you feel aligned and fulfilled, and what it means to live a present life, to live in the moment and not be stuck in the past or the future. I just think these conversations are the most important conversations we can be having right now. So I'm truly, from the bottom of my heart, so grateful that you are on this journey with me. And today's episode is really dedicated to all of you guys. As you guys know, I asked on Instagram and in last week's episode for you to share any questions you had or any experiences that you've had in your alignment journey or how the podcast has affected you. Really, you could share anything about alignment in general, and I just wanted to share your perspective on here. So thank you so much to those of you that sent in questions or your experiences. I will be drawing a winner for a free internal guidance session at the end of this episode, so make sure you tune in. And again, you can always book an internal guidance session at any time through my website. I love holding these for people. I've done quite a few for people that I know and people that I don't know. And if you're unsure what an internal guidance session is, it really just gets you in a deeper state of consciousness so you can connect with your intuition and you can receive direct information from your intuition that is unique to you and to your alignment. It is such a beautiful gift to yourself and such a beautiful experience. And once you do it, you kind of know what to expect. So then you can go and do it on your own. It is just such a powerful gift, I think, to really hone that skill of tuning into your internal guidance, your intuition. Like I've said with many people on here before, we all have that muscle. Every single one of us has our intuition. Just some of us have lost that connection. It's gotten so quiet because it is subtle. It's a subtle voice. Over time, it's harder and harder for you to listen to it and connect to it and trust it. I think that's a big one for a lot of people, and me included, to find that voice and then learn to trust it. But the more you do it, the easier it gets. So that is that. And before we get into the questions and the experiences that I'm going to share with you on this episode, I do want to remind you of something super fun that I'm doing for NovInber on social media and here on the podcast. I'm calling it NovInber. So we're using this month to go inward. I just feel like this is a really unique time of the year. We're right in the middle of holiday season. We're right towards the end of the year before we start the new year with all the resolutions and that kind of stuff. A lot of noise is going on at this time of year. A lot of different noise. So I just want to encourage myself and those around me, if you want to join me, absolutely no pressure. But for the month of November, I'm going to commit to doing one thing on this list of things I'm going to share here in just a moment to help me just slow down, silence my mind as much as I can, because we know that it's not always the easiest thing, and just go within, connect to my internal guidance, or even just slow down and breathe, slow down and stretch, slow down and journal. It's really just about slowing down and reconnecting with yourself. We just live in times that are so noisy, and it's so easy to tap into that noise. It's so easy to scroll on TikTok for hours or any type of social media for hours and just get lost in the subconscious stuff out there. It's so easy. And I've been talking about this a lot recently. It almost makes me mad how hard it is, at least in my experience, to remind myself to be present. Like I have to remind myself again and again and again to be present, to unwire that programming that I have to be looking for the next thing or thinking about the next thing and just enjoy this moment. Like it actually kind of makes me mad how difficult that is. So that is why I have this podcast. That's why I share this message. And that is why I'm doing this activity for November. So like I said, I'm calling it NovInber. So we're going inward. And how it's going to work, it's not a challenge because I don't know, the word challenge just doesn't resonate with me. I didn't want to call it a challenge. So it's an activity of sorts. But what we're going to do is each day we're going to prioritize one of the following. And you can do more, you can do less. But I just kind of wanted to set this as a, kind of median for you to start. And again, there's no expectations, no requirements. Do what feels right to you. But this is a good place to start. These are things that have really helped me go within in my alignment journey. And again, remember the point of this is to help you reconnect with you so you know what is aligning for you. I feel like that is one of the most important parts of this journey is really rediscovering yourself. Like what actually makes you happy? What actually makes you fulfilled? And when you get present and when you get quiet and when you get still, you can really start to question a lot of the things that you thought made you happy in your life. And that is where like the magic happens. That's when your life starts to really transform. And that's when you start to feel that deep peace, that deep fulfillment that we all crave. Okay, so here's my list of things. Again, we're prioritizing each day one of the following for around 5 minutes. You can do less, you can do more, you can do more than one of these things each day, or you can skip a day. Like, don't feel like if you skipped a day, you've like messed up the whole thing. No, that's not the point of this. It's just as a reminder each day to prioritize your alignment, prioritize going within, prioritize connecting with yourself, and also getting into receptive mode. A lot of times when I do these things, I truly get into receptive mode and I can receive messages from my guidance, from my internal guidance, from my guides out there in the universe, from the universe itself. We have to slow down and get quiet sometimes to hear those messages. I mean, the universe is constantly communicating with us. I've been talking about this with the people around me, like different signs we're getting. And sometimes it just takes us slowing down to see it and to realize what it's saying. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this was right in front of me this whole time. Okay, so here's the list of things. Of course, the first one, I bet you could guess what it is meditation. Don't let that word freak you out. You can do it in any way. I have guided meditations uploaded to my YouTube channel. There are thousands, if not millions, of meditations on YouTube. So you can definitely search around and find ones that work for you. There are meditations on the Insight Timer, which is free. We had a guest on here that had some meditations on the Insight Timer, Holly Copeland. So go check those out. She did such a beautiful meditation for us. Sometimes you just kind of have to find your groove with meditation. Find what works for you. Some people really like the guided ones. Some people just like to sit in silence. Some people like music. There's no wrong way to do it. It's just about slowing down and tuning in. Don't worry about turning off your mind. That's not the point. I mean, that may happen eventually, but that's not the point. It's just about slowing down and tuning back in. So the next one kind of goes along with this, but I just worded it a little bit differently. But this is silence and no distractions. So this could even be going on a walk and not putting in a podcast, or going on a walk and not listening to music. Just having silence. And I guess that wouldn't be silence because you could be listening to nature, but just minimal to no distractions. Again, for 5 minutes or less, or around there. We're not super hard on the rules here. The next thing is stretching or yoga. Oh, this is one of my favorite things. My body is so happy when I prioritize yoga. I like to do it first thing in the morning and at night before I go to bed, which doesn't always happen with a baby, but I try. And when I do prioritize it, my body feels so good. And again, this doesn't have to be anything crazy. Of course, I have my yoga flows uploaded to my YouTube channel, but you can just do some quick stretching for like 5 minutes or less. Like I like to stretch out my spine and my arms and do a quick bind behind my back. And sometimes I do some quick cat-cows. Those just always feel so good to me. Oh, and child's pose and some hip openers. I mean, okay, I'm kind of going on and on here, but that's what feels so good to my body. And what's also so beautiful about this process is it kind of forces you to connect back into your body, especially if you're doing like a self-guided yoga flow, like something that just feels good to you when you're deciding what poses to do. Sometimes you have to watch a few yoga flows first if you're unfamiliar with the poses to see what you can do. But after you watch a few, I really encourage you to just put on some music and just move with what feels natural to your body. That is such a beautiful practice to start connecting in and tuning into your body, because our body is constantly communicating with us. That's why we get sick sometimes, or like when we run ourselves down and we get sick, that's why, because our body's saying slow down. You can't keep going at this pace. I always say that to myself when I like injure myself or get sick. I'm like, okay, I need to slow down for some reason. And I just try to surrender to that. But anyways, so that is another thing you can do for November. 5 minutes or less or more if it feels good of stretching or yoga. Now the next one I got from Jess Lively, who I think she got from Abraham Hicks. But it's called a rampage of appreciation. And basically what you're doing, I just love the name of that, is you're listing as many things as possible that you are appreciative of or grateful for. They just use appreciation because it's just kind of has a different flavor or tone to it. But it's things that you really appreciate and are grateful for in your life. So set a timer and just try to list as many things as you can. Like you can't do that and not feel amazing afterwards. That is such a high vibe practice. That's why so many people are talking about gratitude, because when you're in a state of gratitude, like we've talked about on here, you are emitting such a beautiful energy, a beautiful vibration, and you are a true magnet for the things around you. Now, the next thing is journal or free write. Again, this can be something that maybe you've wanted to start, but you really don't know where to start with journaling. So I do have my free resource on 30 journal prompts if you want to utilize that. Or you can just free write. Like a lot of times after I meditate, I'll just grab a pen and pencil and just write what's on my mind. And usually that turns into kind of like channeling of my internal guidance. My internal guidance starts talking to me, which gets into the next thing that you can do for November. But don't put too much pressure on it. Just kind of let what needs to come out, come out. A lot of times when you journal or free write and you can talk about something that's heavy on your mind or something that's been bothering you and your awareness, a lot of times that turns into a safe space for you to get to the root of why you're upset about something, which can feel really satisfying to be like, oh, that's why I keep, going off on my significant other because of this, not because of that. So highly encourage journaling. Such a beautiful practice. And again, like I said, that gets me into the last one, which is writing to your internal guidance. Now I'm going to link a YouTube video that I created on how to connect to your internal guidance. It really kind of takes you through what I do in an internal guidance session if you're curious, but it's really just about breathing and tuning your awareness into your body and listening. But sometimes it's the asking questions part that is tricky. And that's what I do in an internal guidance session is I ask the questions. So go check out that video if you need more direction on how to do that. But again, you can even do things outside of this, outside of my list. But the point of NovInber is just prioritizing daily, going within and connecting with yourself and getting in that receptive mode, slowing down, finding stillness, even if it's just for a tiny sliver of your day. Every single one of us, even the busiest people listening, can find like 2 to 3 minutes at minimum to just find some stillness and silence. So I'm so excited to do this. I want to call it a challenge, like by habit, because that's what other people call it, but it's not a challenge. This activity with you all in November. Please tag me if you start to do this, or you can use the hashtag NovInber. I would love to see all of you doing this with me. I'll be posting it on my stories as well. we'll see each day. Like, I need this accountability too, because especially with Arlo in our lives now, sometimes I can get caught up in the mundane tasks, right? Which we talk about, bringing the magic to the mundane. But sometimes I can still, my mind wants to get caught up in the mundane tasks. And I need to remember to prioritize these things, because these are the pillars of my alignment. These are the things that ground me in my alignment and ground me in this present moment. And this is where true fulfillment comes for me, by doing these things and reconnecting with myself and allowing myself to kind of evaluate what I'm going after, and really asking myself, is this something that truly fulfills me anymore? Does it align with me? This really gives you the time and space for those things. So I'm so excited for NovInber. Like I said, tag me on Instagram if you are doing this. Use the hashtag NovInber. If you don't know how to spell it, I'll share all of it on Instagram. And of course, if you don't know, my handle is at Lindsay with an A, M Tanner. So make sure you're following along there. And I'm just really excited to see how this goes for all of us. I feel like this is the perfect time to do this activity. All right, so with all that, let's get into some stories or some questions that we had from all of you. All right, so the first one I have is from Gina Malchiori. She is my cousin, and she's also been on the podcast. Go back and check out her episode. It was such a good one, and I can't wait to have her on again, hopefully sometime soon. But the first thing she shared was how the podcast affected her. So she said, listening to your episodes are some of my alignment time. They remind me that alignment is vital to enjoying life, breathing, living in the moment, and that progress is progress and should be celebrated at any level. Even the other day, listening brought me a sense of peace, reminded me we're all more in unison than we think, and granted me to be more thoughtful of the now. I'm so thankful for the podcast, the weekly reminders, and the new helpful bits to implement into my daily life. Gina, thank you so much for sharing that. And that is exactly what I want this podcast to be, because I know that's what I need. I need those daily reminders. And it just still kind of blows my mind how I need those reminders. Like, I get frustrated with myself sometimes because I'm like, why do I still need these reminders? Why isn't this easier for me? Like I said before, it makes me mad. But that's why we're all in this together, and this is why I want to share your perspective. So thank you so much, Gina, for sharing this. And I do want to point something else out too. Celebrating the progress. Even my mind/ego had a story around celebrating the 100th episode. Like, we had a little party this weekend for Halloween. You guys know I love Halloween, for my birthday and for the 100th episode. And it still felt like cringy to my body to celebrate the 100th episode, even though I am so proud that I'm still recording these episodes, because I love doing it so much. And I am really proud that I started this and I'm still doing it 2 years, almost 2 years later, and 100 episodes in. But something about my ego and my mind was just like, ugh, like, who do you think you are celebrating these 100 episodes? And I think we can get caught up in that a lot. But every single one of us are making progress all the time, every single day, moment by moment. And we need to celebrate that more. We need to allow ourselves to celebrate that more, to share that with other people that are going to support us in that endeavor. And we should be celebrating the small stuff, like going out and celebrating making a really healthy choice for yourself, or setting healthy boundaries. Or maybe it is, sticking to a goal that you really want to accomplish, a goal that actually aligns with you, and not a goal that you're chasing for something else, right? We talked about that a few episodes back. So that is something that really stood out to me from Gina's message. But I'm just so glad that it can affect the people that I love the most in my life. That is so fulfilling and rewarding to me, that I can help raise the vibration of the people that I love the most in my life. So thank you so much for sharing, Gina. And she did also have a question. She said, would love to know when or how alignment became a priority. Such an interesting question. To reflect back on, like, your life's journey is always such an interesting practice. And I try not to dwell there too much because, I'm always trying to live in the present, but I do think about it a lot. And really, things kind of kicked into gear when I moved to Arizona. That was such a pivotal time of my life. Obviously, that was a huge life transition, second probably to having my son, but that was a pretty big deal. And I just remember leading up to that, this is such an interesting thing that I've been thinking about recently. Leading up to moving, that was really an interesting time where I could hear my internal guidance versus my mind. My mind was like, why are you moving? You're so comfortable here. You have a good job. You know what you're doing in your job. Next year would be so easy and smooth for you. You've got your family. You've got all the comforts here, blah, 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 telling me all the reasons I shouldn't do it. But my internal guidance was just a knowing. It was exciting and scary, and it was a knowing of the unknown possibilities. And that felt so just like invigorating to me. And I can really just like teeter-totter back between the two. And that felt exhausting. And I still feel that sometimes with other issues in my life. So I know some of you can relate, just kind of teetering back and forth between those two voices. But to go back to Gina's question, when did alignment really become a priority? I would say starting then and just magnifying as I moved to Arizona and dove even deeper into this work. So after I moved here, I realized the power of listening to my internal guidance, my intuition. You guys know I call it the same thing. And just the magic that kept unfolding as I would dive into this work and learn more about intuition from reading books and listening to podcasts and listening to different spiritual teachers out there. I knew the word alignment, but not in the way that I'm using it probably until about 5 years ago or so, probably around the same time that I moved here. And I think the first person that I heard using it in this way was one of my greatest mentors, Jess Lively. And when she explained it, I was like, yes, this is the way I need to be living. Like, this makes so much sense to me. It's that remembering piece, right? Like, I think a lot of these concepts we know, our soul knows, because I believe our soul has been here many times. And then we remember, we tune back in, we receive that message and we remember, and it feels so good. But as soon as I truly understood what living in alignment meant, which to me, it's living a life that is in alignment with your internal guidance, with the truest part of you, a life that truly fulfills you, that is present and not living it for anyone else or anything else. That is what truly fulfills us. I just knew this. It sounds cheesy, but I was like, well, this is my life's purpose is to live in alignment and to help other people live a life in alignment. And, I did that for a few years, just kind of on that seeker journey, which I'm still on today. But eventually that led me to the point where it felt so aligning to start a podcast, to start sharing this with all of you guys. And here we are today, still talking about this stuff. And I loved having Gina on here, hearing her perspective on what living in alignment means. And it's just such a beautiful journey to be on. So I would say I really learned what it was probably within the last 5 years. And that's when I've been prioritizing it. As soon as I knew what it was, I was like, this is a priority to me, is living in alignment. And I want to do this and help as many people as I can live in alignment as well. Because that, to me, is what is going to make this world a better, more beautiful, more enjoyable place for everyone. So I hope that answered your question, Gina. Again, thank you so much for sharing your question and your perspective. All right, the next alignment perspective we have to share is from Demi Garcia, who is another guest, multiple time guest here on the podcast. She is my good friend. I love our conversations. We will just go to coffee shops and talk for hours sometimes. And we always say, oh, we should have been recording this, just because we have such expansive conversations, which I'm so, so grateful for. But Demi said, your podcast helps me stay grounded and perspectives that are calming and non-judgmental. Again, I love that I can help bring some alignment and high vibes to the people that I love most. But I love that she mentioned non-judgment, because non-judgment is tough. We are conditioned to judge our world, to interpret it, right, with our 5, maybe more than 5 senses. And through that, we form judgments. And a lot of times those judgments can be perceived as negative. And then we can use that judgment as the lens that we see that person or that event or that situation through. So it's a really beautiful practice to look at things with non-judgment. So thank you for that reminder back to me, mirroring that back to me, Demi, to look at situations in our life and especially ourselves with non-judgment. I feel like we can be the judgiest around ourselves. I know I feel that way sometimes. So thank you for that beautiful reminder, Demi, and thank you for sharing your perspective. Moving on to the next one. Again, this is just Remember, I said you could share anything, like there were no limits. But from Nicole Israel, who's my sister, which I feel like I should have Nicole on here too. Wouldn't it be interesting to hear a sister dynamic? So if she's listening, she may be like, no way, Jose. But I think that would be so interesting. Maybe that'll flow one of these days. She says, just so proud of you for everything you've accomplished with the podcast and for being such an inspiration. Love you. Well, right back at you. All the people around me inspire me to do this work. Like, I mean that from the bottom of my heart. A lot of the drive and motivation to share this is I want to like share it with everyone else to be like, guys, if we just keep remembering this stuff, we can live a life that is so fulfilling and enjoyable and in tune with what we really want. And I just want that for everyone. Like we said, we can't control everyone. You can't force someone to live in alignment. You can't force someone to tune into their internal guidance. But by each one of us doing this work, we're showing how it can be done. And we're putting that vibration out there, which can be scientifically measured. And that is influencing how other people are living. They're seeing it by example, and they're actually feeling that vibration, feeling that energy. So that is exactly why I do this work. So thank you, Sissy, for sharing that message. All right, on to the next one from Kaylin Whittemore, which is one of my good friends here from Arizona. Her first message says, I didn't realize how much having a morning routine made a difference in my life and mental health. Ugh, that is so true. And I've been struggling with that recently just because my mornings look so different because I have a baby. Before Arlo was here, I would wake up and, meditate and do yoga and practice gratitude. And sometimes I still get to do that, but not always right away. And my mind wants to have stories about that, like, you should be doing this right away. But of course, I need to feed him. I need to pump. I need to, make sure he's situated first, which is also so aligning in its own way. It's really just writing that transformation into motherhood, which is like a whole nother topic, a whole nother thing about alignment in itself, is writing that wave of a huge transition, whether it's into motherhood or something else. But morning routines are key. So I highly recommend, if you don't have a morning routine, first of all, there's like a million morning routine videos on YouTube, and some of you may think those are mundane to watch. I love watching them because I love my morning routine and I love to see what other people do in their morning routine. But it doesn't have to be something intricate. It can be those small things like I listed. One of those things from the NovInber list, one of those things, start incorporating it in the morning, or even just not being on your phone until like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m. Not being on your phone right away is a game changer. So then moving on with Kaylin's message, because I actually cut it off that box in Instagram. She goes, I know it's kicking it back to like episode 20-ish, but like back to basics, me prioritizing gratitude, journaling, and morning routine changes my life daily. So that's not really a question necessarily, but I agree, Kaylin. It really is about going back to the basics. The basics are key. And I think our mind wants to overcomplicate this process a lot. I say this a lot, but our mind, like the purpose of our mind is to find and solve problems. That is what it's good at. So even when things are going perfectly, you've manifested all these things in your reality, it's still looking for problems. So a lot of times we want to overcomplicate things. We want to search for problems to solve, but it really is back to the basics. And the basics are what feels aligning to you. A lot of the things I shared on the NovInber list can be basics for you, whether that's meditating, finding stillness, journaling, but it's even that alignment list that I mentioned in episode 1 that is still pertinent here in episode 100. What is that list of things that brings you so much joy that you forget about time and space, and time passes so fast and you're just having so much fun and it feels so aligning to do those things? It can be something so basic or a hobby or something more intricate. It is unique to you. So thank you for that reminder, Kaylin. It is about back to the basics. It really is. Like, don't overcomplicate this for yourself. Find the basics of what makes you feel aligned and fulfilled and present in this moment. All right, I have one more message to share with you guys, and it is from one of my favorite people on this planet, and that is my mom. Like I've said many times, I am very grateful and very blessed that my parents are huge supporters of this podcast. So her message that she wanted to share with you all is, your podcast is the best reminder for me to be present in the moment. That's when you can tune into what the universe has to say and just enjoy the simplest of things. That feels so resonant. And she is someone that I've been talking about recently with those signs. We see signs all the time, or we get messages all the time from the universe. It's just a matter of slowing down so you can hear those messages and interpret those messages using your internal guidance. And I love the last thing that she said. This has felt so true to me recently. I love the simple things, like going on a walk and staring at the moon. You guys know I love the moon. I always am that person on walks, like stopping and taking pictures of the moon. Like, do I need 200 pictures of the moon on my phone? No, but it's so aligning and it's so simple. Like, I just love looking at the moon. So I encourage you to, again, like Kaylin said, back to the basics, back to the simple things. So guys, thank you so much for taking time to share your perspectives and your questions. If you didn't get your question or perspective in this time, I would love to do another like Q&A / more than a Q&A again. So if you have anything, please, you can always just message me on Instagram and share it, and let me know if you want me to do another one of these. And I'm so excited for the next 100 episodes because this train is not stopping. This alignment momentum is in full force, and I can feel the momentum building even more and more with each episode and each day. And the more I learn, and the more my awareness and consciousness expands and grows. And again, I know I say it all the time, but I'm just so grateful that you're on this journey with me. So let's go ahead and draw a winner for the internal guidance session. Again, thank you to everyone that took some time to share. All right, so I'm using the random name generator that I just Googled and found. It takes me back to my teacher days. And the winner of the free internal guidance session is Gina. So Gina, I will be messaging you. I talk to you pretty frequently anyways, but I'll be messaging you and we can schedule that internal guidance session. I'm so excited to hold that space for you. But as a reminder, we are doing NovInber this next month. When is November starting? On Tuesday, the day after Halloween. So please join in if that feels aligning to you. I will share all the resources in the show notes where you can grab the yoga flows if you want to do that from my YouTube channel, or the 30 days of journal prompts if that feels aligning to you. Check all that stuff out. Or again, there's so many other resources. Really tune into your internal guidance on what feels right to you. But as always, I'm sending so much love and all the high vibes to you guys. Thank you for being on this journey with me. Thank you for tuning into these 100 episodes. And you can always go back and listen. I do that from time to time. And that's one of my favorite aligning activities. I listen to an episode and I'm like, such a good reminder. I need to take this in my day to day. So sending you all so much love, all the high vibes. And of course, I will see you next week on Alignment Adventures.